What is going on, hobby family? It is your boy K-Dub. This is K-Dub's High Five. 5 rapid fire questions with your favorite hobby faces. And today we bring in the legal team of the hobby. He is the law when it comes to sports cards. My friend Paul Lesko at Paul_Lesko on Twitter and Instagram. How are you doing today, man?
Doing fine. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm closing in on summer. I couldn't be happier, and I'm sitting here with the legal team of the hobby. So life is good, man. So I appreciate you wanting to do this. How it works? I got 5 questions, all hobby related. I'm gonna throw them at you one right after another. Ready to take on the high five?
Let's do it.
All right, man. First question for you. For those people who don't know you or maybe haven't seen you on Twitter or Instagram, kind of how would you describe kind of your role or kind of your personality when it comes to social media and mainly when it comes to the hobby social media?
Sure. What I do on mainly on Twitter is I'm a lawyer by training, by profession, and I'm also a card collector. And my collection focuses on cards that are involved in lawsuits. And so what I wanted to do is share that with everybody because I mean, ask any collector, just all they want to do is talk about their collection. And so the way that since I collect cards involved in lawsuits, whenever there's any legal issues in the hobby, whenever there's a new lawsuit or a card that has problems, I like to tweet about it and explain about it because it's something I'm going to collect. And as a lawyer, my whole job really is to try and get a group of 12 or a group of 6 jurors to agree with my side, or to get the judge to agree with my side. So I need to be able to explain anything to them so they can understand it. So it's really what I try to do. I try to get the complicated lawsuits. I try to explain them so that anybody can understand them. And I'm rather open to questions too. And so if anybody has questions about it, or if they say, I don't know what you're talking about, this means go back, try it again, and try and further a love, not just for the cards, but some of these cards have stories beyond the cards that
Absolutely.
I like to tell.
Absolutely. So what came first, the legal or the collecting? Like, were you a
Yeah,
collector first or a lawyer first?
I was a collector first. I started collecting in the 80s.
Okay.
Took a little hiatus when I went to high school, undergrad, and law school. But right when we started having kids, that's when I dove back in collecting. So about 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And I've only been a lawyer since 99, but really a collector since 85 or 84.
Okay. Okay. Well, you heard it here. If you got questions about, card legal issues, my man Paul_Lesko is the guy to go to.
Yeah,
I got to ask what.
if your question just happens to be how much of a card can I copy to make my own, it's probably none.
So, what was the first card that set off your piecing of legal issues? Who was the player? I guess.
So it was a lawsuit. Topps sued Upper Deck over their Upper Deck was using the 1975 Topps card design for some OPG inserts that they had
Okay.
in. I think it was 2010 Upper Deck, their 2010 Upper Deck set.
Okay.
So it was also there was the first time I wrote an article
Okay.
about how it was, and that's really what I got it going. Because before then, I was really fumbling with collecting. I tried prospecting, I tried
Mm,
collecting cardinals because I'm in the St. Louis area, and it was fun, but it wasn't as fun. So
yeah.
somebody once told me, "Hey, you need a theme. When you collect,
Yeah.
have a theme." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you know what? Here's the theme." And ever since then, I've really enjoyed collecting that much more.
I love it. I love the niche collecting, man. So if you're watching this, drop in the comments if you are a niche collector. What is your collection? We would love to hear it. All right, you said you've been collecting, since you were a kid. Then you took a little hiatus. If you think about some of those people who kind of influence your collecting, or maybe your hobby influences in your life, who would you credit for some of those collecting influencers?
I think probably the person. I hope it doesn't embarrass him, but the one that influenced me the most is Ryan Cracknell. He
Okay.
back in when I started writing about trading cards, I wrote for Cardboard Connection, and
Yeah.
Ryan was the editor there. And when I first started collecting, I was really just myself in this town of Arnold, Missouri,
Mm,
just collecting. And I didn't really know that many other people besides a cousin of mine who collected.
yeah.
And so I started writing, and Ryan said, "You know what? You should really be on Twitter." There's a great community out there. You've got a unique viewpoint. I think people would like it.
For sure.
And so, and I mean, not only that, but he's a great guy and he's very knowledgeable about the hobby. So that's what, pushed me to go to Twitter. It pushed me, I learned so much more. It was
Yeah.
a really good learning curve
Yeah.
by talking to others. And I've, never looked back since then. So Ryan's probably the one that affected my collecting the most.
I love hearing that, man. And Ryan is actually on deck, on deck, on deck to be on the high five. So I look forward to
Is it
chatting
really good?
a little,
Good.
little bit of that as well, hearing his story. So that's fantastic. So, all right, I'm excited for this one. When you think about your Grail card, like the card you've always wanted, and you got kind of this niche PC, is there a Grail card out there for you that you've always wanted, and what is it?
There is. Okay, so it's a 2011 Triple Threads Topps card. It's John Henry.
Okay.
So what happened is there was a lawsuit brought by a former Topps employee against Topps for putting his image on this John Henry card without permission. And it was released in 2011. It was something else that I wrote about, and it was only 5 of these cards were made.
Okay.
And I remember it popped up on eBay. And at that point, I was still, conservatively only spending like $5, $10, $20 if I felt really bad, but felt really bad afterwards for cards. So it popped up on eBay, one of 5, and was for sale for $200. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I
10
can get
times the budget, dude.
yeah, so I passed on it, and my thought process was, okay, the product just came out. This is the highest price it's going to be. There's 4 other cards out there. I'm sure it'll show up on eBay again. Nope, I have not seen it since then. So that's and it's kind of it's a really difficult card to explain because it's not a player. It's just a gimmick card that it's a one of 5. So whenever I go to the National, I feel like such a pest because I will go table to table, and everybody knows what their inventory normally is. I'm like, hey, do you carry any like Triple Threads from 2011? Oh yeah, sure. Do you have the John Henry insert? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, next table. So
Man, this is truly a grail. I mean, this is a hunt then. We got to search for this thing. So,
yeah, every once a year, I always post my big, hey, I really
yeah,
need this card. I will overpay for it. But part of part of the fun of collecting is the chase. I
absolutely.
mean, if you had everything all at once, it's great to look at it, but
Mhm.
you always need that one thing to look for, and it's just it's truly my it's my Moby Dick. It's
I
it's something I'm chasing, and I don't know if I'm gonna ever get or if it's gonna get me.
Oh man, well, I'm excited for the chase, and you're spot on, man. I mean, the chase is the beauty of the hobby. So,
Mhm.
all right, man. Fourth question here. Thinking about product, you got all the money in the world. You can rip any hobby box you want. What box are you ripping and why?
Oh, geez. This is one of those ones where I'm probably going to have to go with an answer that a lot of people give. But I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I
Okay.
lived there in the 80s. But while I was there in 1986, I was collecting baseball, Topps baseball. I was not collecting basketball at all. So I loaded up on Dwight Gooden cards. I've got sheets of Dwight Gooden cards. And even though I lived in the suburbs of Chicago, not a single MJ 1986 Fleer.
Gotcha.
So if money wasn't an issue, that's the box I'm going to get. That's what I need to get because I need to, either pull that card or sometime add it. And not just because I missed out as a kid, and not just Michael Jordan is my favorite athlete of all time, but it's also because it's one of the cards that pops up a lot in litigation. There's a lot of counterfeit cards
Yeah.
that are out there. MJ's exclusive to Upper Deck. Upper Deck's really protective of him.
Mm.
So there's a lot of litigation there. So in my collection, I like to show not only the cards that infringe but I also like to show the original cards. So that is something I do need to get. Hopefully, at some point I can add it. It might not happen.
And it checks 2 PC boxes. It checks a little bit of the legal box and it checks a little bit of the personal box. So
Yep.
a double
Yep.
check there. I got to say, I've been doing the high five for 3 seasons now, and the 86 Flair is definitely the coveted, man. I mean, that is the box that you got to rip. I mean, it's
Yeah.
especially for guys that are your my age. I mean, that's our time of the NBA, and when we watch the game the most. And so I would probably I'm in that same camp, man. To rip your own would be something special. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, otherwise I was going to come up with like the worst examples, like, oh yeah, 52 tops or T206, just awful answers.
Oh, all right, man. Last question. I love following you on Twitter because, like I said, you said you have a different perspective, different point of view, especially when it comes to the legal side of it. Kind of what about the kind of the hobby legal kind of interests you most? Like what about the hobby and the legal stuff kind of draws you in?
Yeah, it's what I like is that it's I look at cards differently than most people, and I can
Mm,
explain how I look at cards because it's what grabbed me when I got back into it. When I first got back into it, looking at cards, they had there were some trademarks that were listed on there. There were copyrights that were on there. There's even some cards that had patents on it. And at that
mm,
time, I really focused on intellectual property litigation. So I was bringing lawsuits for copyrights, for trademarks, for patents.
mm.
So that's something that I focus on for that for collecting is just anything that's a legal issue to share with anybody else. That's I mean, because again, every collector wants to talk about their collection. So any excuse I can talk about my collection, I will.
Absolutely. Do you have like a favorite thing that as far as the legal stuff goes? I mean, I know right now you might, but like overall in your time, is there one that really stands out to you as far as like this was super fascinating for me as a lawyer, also super fascinating for people in the hobby?
Yeah, my one of my favorite lawsuits there ever was the Michael Jordan in the background lawsuit. It's where Panini had two cards that they released where it was a Scottie Pippen card and it was a Dennis Rodman card. And Michael Jordan was just in the background of those cards.
Yeah,
And Upper Deck sued over it. Because again, it's Michael Jordan. It's their protected athlete, and it was just one of the funnier lawsuits that was out there because the Panini product for the Pippen card, it had Michael Jordan was in the corner. It was like this big, like 0.25 inches, and so it was a lawsuit over 0.25 inches, and that was a really fun lawsuit to follow. It also had you got Panini, you got Upper Deck, you got two of the big companies that are
sure.
fighting it out. So that's one of the ones that stands out, and the fact that I call it the MJ in the background case that helps. But it's really every year there's a new lawsuit. There's something else that I love every year. It's a crazy industry. It
Yeah.
really is. So there's always characters, and some of these cards that they litigate over are just beautiful cards. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, man. I want to throw a bonus question at you, man, because this was a super fun thing. I don't know if it was this week or last week. You got a package in the mail, and you opened this package, and to your surprise, it was a topic of conversation that you had been discussing via Twitter. What was that like for you to open that up and see that someone had sent that to you?
so
Oh,
are
sorry.
we talking?
Maybe fill us into exactly what the legal piece is that they were trying to surprise you with.
Sure. So I actually had two of those packages that happened last week. Are we talking about the Bang Bros
Yeah,
packages?
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So there was a lawsuit that Panini brought against Bang Bros, the adult website, because there were some cards that were out there that used Prism designs and Panini's trademarks,
Absolutely.
but they were of porn stars, and it says they were made by Bang Bros. And so Panini filed a lawsuit to protect its trademarks. Come to
Absolutely.
find out, Bang Bros wasn't the right party. Somebody else, some individual was actually making these cards and was actually infringing Bang Bros intellectual property at the same point. So Panini figured it out and sued him. And then these cards were available on a website, bangbros.cards is where they
Oh,
were available.
this high five does not endorse this by any means, by what you know.
And you don't have to because it's shut down because after
Okay,
Panini put
fair
the
enough.
lawsuit, the website was shut down. And it looks like at the same time, the guy who's running bangbros.cards was releasing a new series of cards or a new set of cards.
Oh my,
And so, these aren't, I mean, the cards, they're pretty nice looking, actually, not just, the imagery, but I mean, the prism designs and everything else. I mean, somebody put a lot of care into making these cards.
yes.
And so I kind of felt bad that his whole website shut down. He's not going to be selling these anymore. But then I got a package, and it was this package about this big. It was crumpled. It was like, looked like it had a hole ripped in it. And it said on top of it, important legal documents. It's supposed to say important legal documents, but it actually said important legal documents. And somebody else mentioned that, hey, that looks like there's a picture of that package in every post office that says, watch out, this could be a bomb or anthrax or something. So I didn't know what it was. I just tear right into it, and it was actually a pack of these, a set of these cards, 5 packs, including a bonus pack. And I opened them up, and I've got like, now I have like 25 of these Bang Bros cards, and it's great because a lot of these cards really infringe other IP. So now I'm going back and collecting all of the cards that these line up with for my
Yes.
collection. It goes really well, and no, we don't know who sent the package. It was an
Which is the beauty of
anonymous
it
package,
all.
I suspect, and thanks to I think it's the owner of Bang Bros Cards that sent these to me. It was a great break. If you can find the cards, it's a great break, but they're
Oh, man.
very limited now, I'm sure.
I love it because it was just kind of the beauty and the humor in the hobby. And I think it was just, a great tweet thread, but also just kind of showed you the lighter side and the fun of the hobby, which I think sometimes we forget, as we get caught up in kind of the hype and the hustle and the fast pace of it all. It's fun to just kind of look back and laugh sometimes, especially because you have no idea where it came from. So that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it. So.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's something I really do try to be as light and
Mm-hmm.
funny as possible, because I mean, first of all, my job is very argumentative. As a lawyer, I mean, that you
Yes.
spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day really drafting arguments, or actually literally arguing with people.
Mm.
So that gets draining. So I view Twitter and the hobby as my escape. So I try not to get into debates. I try not to, I mean, even when people will, I hope people see this, but even when people go on my threads and say, oh, you're dumb for saying this, or you're seeing this issue wrong, I still interact with them and say, no, here's my perspective. Here's how it is. And it really, about 50% of the time, the people turn around and they become followers, and they become good people to interact with afterwards. So
Absolutely.
I try to bring a little love out there. For a lawyer, it's a little odd, but I try.
Well, it's appreciated, man. It's appreciated. All right, man. Hey, we cleared the list. We got a high five. Throw it up at the high five right here. Boom. Like you said, Twitter is kind of his main place of interaction. At Paul underscore. Say the last name for me. Let's go.
At Paul underscore Let's Go.
Let's go. I want to make sure I said it
LESKO.
right there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always think let's go. So let's go.
That's exactly. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
At Paul underscore let's go on Twitter, also on Instagram as well. Also, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Cato. Always remember, my friends, be the good. Shout out to our high five endorsers, Rack of the Day, Eric Hucker, and Buck City Breaks. Thanks so much for joining me, man. This was great. This was a great conversation. I absolutely appreciate you joining me.
Thanks for having me on. This was a blast.
All right. See you guys next time on the next high five.